name's Stephanie, welcome to my channel. Today it's going to be like a hobby reading vlog. I have a lot of interests which I usually pick up and am interested in either a week to a month to a year to a few years and then drop it. I'm trying to not do that because these are things I actually do really enjoy. So this is me trying to get back into my hobbies kind of video. I will be reading these two books in this vlog because of course reading is my hobby. A hobby that I like doing, that I actually don't do enough of. I just don't sit down enough and read, which I really should. So I did a writing and editing course, which I've mentioned previously, and I realized that I'm actually not too bad at writing. And I mean, being an author is something that I've always wanted to do like my whole life, just be the best thing ever to be an author, but I need to practice writing in order to do that. I did a lot of that in my course. You know, when you have a deadline, you have a objective that you have to reach and a word limit you have to reach as well. Now that I have finished my studies, I no longer have that, so now it's up to me to do that for myself, which I haven't been good at the last few months. So I'm going to try and get back into it and do it more regularly and maybe include it on here a little bit more to hold myself accountable. That's like a continuing theme, holding myself accountable to things. So yeah, there's some writing I want to be doing. You will also be seeing some of my fishies. So recently I decided I wanted to start my tank again from the start, so empty, no fish. Two of my fish tanks actually, so I have a larger one and then I have a little small one. So I'm going to take you along with me to do a little bit of fish shopping, which is random and not book related at all, but it is hobby related. Hobbies that I like, so hopefully you like them too. Little fishies are fun to look at, honestly. I don't know, something about them, just really nice. Wow, so descriptive, awesome. I don't know, they actually have little personalities despite what you may think. Like some fishes are just like there, but the landscapes you can make in a tank and the types of fish you can have, just really cool. And sounds really weird probably if you don't know or don't like fish. Anyway, so in this vlog I'm going to be reading Cemetery Boys and also Lore Olympus Volume 2. I really loved the first one. There are trigger warnings for the first one if you do decide to pick it up, but this series is just really cute. The art style is interesting. I haven't read many graphic novels, but I've not read a graphic novel yet with this art style. This is following Persephone and Hades. This is following the love story of Persephone and Hades. They're doing it in their own way. So far it's not horribly toxic as the original lore would tell you. So hopefully it continues to be beautiful and fun and really cute. So yeah, I'm gonna get into some reading and I will be reading Cemetery Boys first and then yeah, get to Lore Olympus a little bit later. So yeah, let's get on with the video. just updating Cemetery Boys. At the moment I'm to page 116 and I'm really liking it so far. I didn't realize it was going to be as slow as this one is. It's already over 100 pages in and not much has actually happened so far, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. I still am enjoying it. It's about these two characters on the front. These two characters. Well, obviously it's about all of them because they're all in the book. So this book is about Yadriel and Julian, the main characters that the description on the back talks about. So Yadriel is a brujo, which is basically like a group of people that exist in the world, but the general population don't actually know about them. They operate in secret. They are kind of like witches, but not quite. They kind of like protect the spirit world from entering the real world in a way, because when people die, their spirits a lot of the time come back, and so the Brujeks kind of help them cross over to the other side so they don't become dangerous and evil spirits, which can happen over time. They just kind of lose their minds and turn bad and do bad things. So the Brujeks kind of stop them from doing that and kind of are like the peacemakers of the spirit world. Not the peacemakers, they're kind of like the peacekeepers of the door between the living and the deceased. So Yadriel is the main character and he's trans, and the reason it's kind of such a big deal in his community of the Brujeks is because the roles of the people in his community are kind of determined based on gender. So the women are actually gifted powers that are different to the men and what they're gifted. So like the women are gifted like healing powers and other things kind of related to that, and the men are gifted the ability to help spirits cross over. And there's other specifics too, but I don't want to get too much into it. It's kind of like coming to a kind of climax of Yadriel's life. So to become one of these people who can heal or whatever, you have to kind of go through a ceremony where there's this deity that kind of grants them these powers when they turn, I think, 15, and Yadriel didn't go through that process because he's supposed to go through it, and he's given this kind of dagger-like instrument. He's supposed to be given the ability to help the spirits cross over, but because his community is like really weird about his gender, they don't want him to go through the ceremony because they kind of think like the deity won't grant him any powers because he's trans. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Basically there's some things that happen at the beginning of the book right away which kind of like set the tone of to what's going to happen throughout the book. Basically he kind of decides to just go through the ceremony himself with him and his cousin? Don't think it's cousin, with his best friend. Then it's kind of going on from there, him trying to prove himself to his community and his family, and also like to complicate things, like some other things happen, but then he ends up summoning a spirit that had just passed away, which is Julian, this one. Kind of at the moment they don't know why he died because he can't remember what happened. The reason Yadriel's wanting to find this out is because he needs to help his spirit kind of cross over, and so he needs Julian to kind of like be at peace. And it's really cool dynamic. Like his best friend Maritza, she is like very cool, so I'm hoping like we see more of her personality come out beyond just being labelled as like vegan. Yadriel, I feel like, to be honest, we haven't learnt too much about him, his kind of personality. Like we know about his family, he's like what he's dealing with in his life right now, but him as a person is not quite shaped yet. But then on the other hand, it's interesting because Julian, like you really get an idea of like the kind of character he is. He has a past that we don't know about yet, and he's gone through some things, but then also he's just like this chaotic energy that's so much fun to, I guess, be around and like read on the page. Just like brings so much, I guess, life to this, when it's like funny because he's like the dead one. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it'll go. The way it's set up in the beginning, and especially because it's a YA, you kind of see the trajectory of where the ending's gonna end up. Like I'm pretty sure I can like predict what will happen. The journey of getting there is gonna be fun because yeah, the characters are really cool to read from. It's just a sweet book at the moment. I'm like a third of the way. And it's a pretty quick read. It feels like I haven't really spent much time reading it, so I think, yeah, I'll check in with you once I've read some more. So I've read more of Cemetery Boys. This one I'm up to 213, so roughly 100 pages left. Again, I feel like not much has happened. I would have expected there to be more. Just at the moment, they're still going through their quests. It's a story, it's really about the characters. Really like get into their lives, but not in a way that's like makes it like literary fiction. There was a section of the book that I came across that it kind of like discusses like the lore of the story and the world and kind of how the Brujeks kind of came about and everything like that. And it was a really cool story. Like it felt like a really solid foundation to build this lore from. I also have no idea if I'm pronouncing these words correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. That's just how I'm saying them in my head at the moment. I think I know what it's setting up to be in the end. Like there's some sort of evil force at work, but you have no idea kind of where that's coming from or really what it is. You can kind of assume from the lore that's established and everything what it is, but no one in the story actually knows what it is. There's just like these bad singular things that have happened, and I think as a reader like you can kind of connect them together, but like it's guessing. There's some elements of it and I hope I'm wrong. The characters are getting very cute together. Again, I don't know how it's going to end because one of the main characters is a ghost, the other one is a real person. So yeah, it's a really nice story. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all pans out. I do feel like it's a slower book, definitely, but it doesn't lag. Like I want to continue reading to find out what's going on. So I'm gonna try and finish this today. I'll come back when I have some more to update you on. Another reading update. I finished Cemetery Boys. This book is very good. It lives up to whatever hype that I've seen of it. It's so good. It was just a really well put together book, and I guess that makes sense because the author studied creative writing. They did a really great job. This always happens. I kind of have to sit with a story for a little bit, maybe a few weeks or maybe like a couple of days to a few weeks. I have to just sit with the story to kind of like gather my thoughts properly about it, because I think like once I finish a book, a lot of the time I kind of just am caught up in the emotion of it all, and I feel like I understand how I feel about a book the most like once it's been like a few weeks later. Just don't want it to be spoilery, so I don't have too much to say, but yeah, just read it. These are like my preliminary thoughts, I guess, about the overall book. It was just really nicely put together. I felt like it was paced really well. Like I didn't feel like there was, you know, any lagging part, which I mentioned before. I don't think that there was any lagging, but there also wasn't parts where there was too much action going on and it kind of felt rushed. It didn't feel rushed at all. I really loved like how infused with culture it was as well. The message of this book as well is really nice. I think I'll have more to say at the end of the vlog. So yeah, finished Cemetery Boys, which is like the first book I finished in probably like a couple of months, so it's really nice. Nice feeling, and it just comes down to me allowing time for my hobbies to actually get them done and I guess take them more seriously, because I feel like I don't really allow myself to just like enjoy my hobbies that much, which is kind of sad. But yeah, anyway, that's what this video is about. So also I started Olympus Volume 2. This book, I forgot how fun the first graphic novel was, and just like the sass and the humor. I've gotten this far, as you can see, like I've read this much, and it goes by so quickly. I'm trying to savor it a bit more instead of just like flipping through. I kind of feel like going back through the first volume because it was so long ago of me reading the first one. I think I need to go back and just kind of refresh my memory on a couple of things, because they kind of just jump straight into this volume and kind of assume you remember what happened in the first volume, and I don't whatsoever. Like I kind of have a gist of like a couple of things, but like the specifics, no idea. It's really lovely and sweet. There's like obviously a romance between Hades and Persephone, but it's just very slow going, and I feel like they're both being really respectful of each other, everything like that. Like I mentioned, like a non-toxic version of Hades and Persephone. As you could see in those clips before, I was like filming everything. Like I just really enjoy this art style, and that's kind of part of the reason why I don't read many graphic novels, is because I can't really get around the art style a lot of the time, of like the ones that I've found at least. But this one is just really pretty, and I just love the kind of, I don't know how to describe it, just like it has color, obviously, like it's full color, but it kind of just like has one tone throughout, and like each person has their own kind of color scheme. Also, I read it so quickly I forgot to like tab my favorite pages, and so I think I have to go back and do that. But yeah, so it's like got like for Persephone it's pink, and then for Hades it's blue, and it's actually like, I think he is actually blue and she is actually pink. It's not just like the toning. There's a comment that Zeus made like, oh, I think you're feeling blue, and then she was like, oh, you'll want to talk. So I think they are actually like different colors. But like it's so pretty. So yeah, just doing this. I showed you some of my fish tank. I was going for one type of landscape, kind of like a style that I did before, where it was like kind of made it look like some mountains. I decided that it wasn't really quite working exactly how I wanted it, and I don't really want to buy like a bunch of more plants and rocks and everything because I have a lot already. I forgot where they all were. It suddenly came to me last night and I remembered where they were, and then I found a bunch of more wood, which you saw me put in the tank. So I was putting it in the tank and I've weighed it down with rocks, because basically what you have to do with wood when you have it in a fish tank is it has to be waterlogged for it to be styled correctly, unless you have something to weigh it down in the water. Otherwise it's just gonna float to the top, because wood is quite porous. So some of the wood that I put in has already been waterlogged, but yeah, I've decided on a completely different style, which is kind of like based off this style, and I have all the rocks and the wood for it. I would only need to get like a couple of different plants, and then hopefully they will grow and like populate the tank. But yeah, it's actually really fun. This side of like fish keeping, aquascaping is like a huge element of fish keeping, and there are like competitions and all that kind of stuff. I've just been having it as like a basic boring tank for quite a while, so I'm working on that still. I have not done any writing whatsoever. I've been writing some other stuff. There's a podcast I'm kind of working on that I've been writing for, so I guess that's considered writing. I just haven't been writing like fiction. So I think actually I will show you my Pinterest board of the fiction book that I'm writing. So these are all the images. This is the vibe I'm going for. Also, it's a queendom, not a kingdom, because no men allowed. No, I'm kidding. And actually looking at this board, it makes me really inspired to write. So you'll see some more writing from me and reading, and then you'll see me with the final update. these two, which I'm pretty proud about. This obviously we talked about earlier. I just finished Olympus Volume 2. I think I liked it even better than the first one. And I really liked the first one. I don't know, I feel like this has so much more humor in it, and I don't know whether it's because the character's a little bit more established now, but just I really enjoy these books. And I tabbed it like almost every second page, I feel like. Oh, it was just so good. Now I'm really looking forward to the next one. I honestly really even like it enough to just like reread them. I really liked it that much. So I've just been thinking while I've been reading this, because I really don't read a lot of graphic novels, and like as I was reading this, I think I've just never connected to a story like graphic novels before. It's really hard for me to like connect to the characters and the story because of the way that like comics / graphic novels are told. I feel like there's a lot of it that kind of goes over my head a little bit. Like it's hard for me to kind of understand what's going on sometimes because it's different to reading. I feel like I focus more on the words when I read graphic novels. I really shouldn't do that. I think I like skim a lot of the images because I just like want to see what happens next, and I kind of rely on the dialogue to tell me that. I'm realizing how important the images are in telling the story now. I don't know why that's like groundbreaking for me. It's not really new information, like it's a graphic novel. I should be looking at the pictures more. I just realized that I just don't as much as I probably should. This volume, I enjoyed it more than the first volume. There was a lot going on with the characters. I just really enjoy this story and how it's being told. Like they're gods, so obviously they're messed up. But the way they're talked about in this book, it's like they're just people who make the same mistakes. They've just lived thousands of years. That's really the only difference between them and humans. Like I feel like the first volume was a little bit more surface level, and we kind of just get a bit of introduction in each of the characters and like the caricatures of each character and you know what they kind of represent. But then in this one it gets a lot deeper and therefore gets like a bit messier and more complicated, and you understand people's motives more. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Also, I love coordinating the colours of my tabs to my books, and these are the colours that I chose for this volume. Anyway, I have been giving more thought to Cemetery Boys, as I discussed before, and I think like everything I said before is like yesterday is still like valid and everything. It was a really good book, but I felt like in terms of like the plot and what happens, it was a predictable story. I'm kind of disappointed in that because I think like people shouldn't hold back on how YA is being told, but in terms of like the characters and like the book as a whole, I really enjoyed it. And the writing style was really easy to read from, and I realized I have been pronouncing it wrong this whole time, and I'm really embarrassed and sad that I can't go back and fix that unless I insert my voice over the top of the stuff I've already filmed. But bullo is actually a word in Spanish, and it means like wizard. So actually when they make jokes about being witches and stuff, it makes sense because bullo in Spanish is wizard. So anyway, it's not pronounced with the J, it's the silent J, as is the Spanish language. As you can tell, I have never learned Spanish before. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to make that clear. I'm sure I'm like the last one to know this. Anyway, I haven't mentioned this yet, but like being Pride Month, I'm really glad that I read this book. It's got a lot of different aspects of LGBTQ rep. So yeah, really happy about them being read. You would have saw I did some more writing. It was more like story planning because there are still a lot of aspects of my story that I haven't kind of like panned out yet. I think because like at the moment I think I am a bit stuck in what exactly to write. Nothing's coming to me. Just like kind of free writing about the backstory so then I can figure out how the character would react to something happening in the novel. Anyway, so yeah, this was my hobby reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it actually. If any of you keep fish, please let me know because I love talking about fish also with people. I know it's kind of weird, but that's okay. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!